Welcome to the Good Planets podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Andre Coggins. Andre is a community leader and founder of Mafia Moves. He's a running coach, former club runner, and ambassador for Lululemon. Andre, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Andre, I want to start off. Tell us about one or more of your favourite moments from your whole sort of running and sporting career.
Oh, where do I start? It's bittersweet. I'm going to dive straight in. 2014, my career-ending injury. That was probably the worst day of my life, but also the greatest day of my life. But I didn't know that at the time. So long story short, I ruptured my quad, my rec fem, which is basically the muscle that allows you to extend your leg. So, when running or playing football, that is one of the major muscles that you need in order to move. And yeah, completely ruptured that, but didn't know I'd completely ruptured it until a bit later down the line where a dent started forming in my leg where it was disconnected. So yeah, had surgery, which meant that there was probably about a 70% chance that I couldn't run again. The doctor said I'd have to just ease back into it, learn how to walk again, learn how to jog again. And if I'm ever able to compete again, that would be a bonus. It took me about 14 months from learning to walk again to actually running again. But during that time, I was in a bit of a depressive state, having invested so much time and effort prior to this injury, from missing family holidays, big milestone events, and spending a lot of money on, your dream for it all to come crumbling down. And I got given a lifeline. I stumbled upon Run Dem Crew, which is a notorious, running community, which pretty much put community running on the map. And from there, my life kind of changed. Yeah, I'll stop there. I don't want to give away too much just yet.
That's mega. Thank you for being so open about it as well.
Thank you.
That's all right.
We were chatting a couple of weeks ago about the London 2012 Olympics. I won't say any more. Go on, you tell everyone this because I love this story. I love this story. This was a catalyst, I think, for you in terms of all the next steps as well, yeah?
Wow, 2012. So I was very fortunate to, be part of a club, Enfield and Haringey at the time. And what happened leading up to the London 2012 Olympics was that every club had the opportunity to volunteer at the games. So whether that was kit carrying to being checkpoints around the Olympic Village, to loads of different roles. And we went through quite a strenuous interview process. I think there's probably about 3 or 4 processes to actually get to where we were. And, we were very successful in being the kit carriers of the games. And my sort of connection to the games was the fact that I kit carried at the 100-meter finals, which was, absolutely mind-blowing. Even though I'm not obviously a sprinter, but I had, if you're a track runner, you love track, whether that is sprints or distance. And, my luck got even better. Here I am just carrying the box out. I can't actually remember what lane it was, but yeah, got to my lane, popped the box down, and all the athletes come out. And, as you do, there's a load of cameras, and you can imagine the noise is just absolutely immense. And yeah, a tall figure stood right in front of me, and to my surprise, it was Usain Bolt. I felt like time froze in that instant. I was just like, this superhero-looking person is about to run probably the fastest time in history. And, at the time, he was the fastest man in history anyway. And yeah, I had a little interaction with him, and it was amazing. And I was just like, wow. And for those that don't know, the slogan for the games was Inspire a Generation. And that is something that has stuck with me even to this day. I've even got it tattooed on my leg because of the journey I've gone from then to now, and that interaction I had with Usain Bolt and what the games showed me. It wasn't only the fact that, you can be whatever you want to be, but it's the fact of inspiring not only the people around you, but the people that are coming up and the people that are older than you as well, inspiring loads of different generations. And that is something that I hope to do. I wanted to do it as a professional athlete, but, as time goes on and you realize that some things aren't meant to be, but now that I've, stumbled into the situation I'm in now and, the great situation I'm in now, I'm able to do that on such a bigger scale than I thought I might have done as a professional athlete. So yeah, that is my close connection to the games.
It was such a powerful time in London. I live just down the road from where we're recording today, and we're on the Olympic Park again today, right? Which is amazing. And I remember like literally walking home after going to like a few events and stuff like that, like living in Leytonstone, and the energy across the city was just like it was unbelievable. And I mean, obviously Paris is coming up in a few weeks' time. And is there anything sort of marked for you for those games to watch and enjoy? Or are you just going to get? Is it more about the full spirit of what that Olympic Games means and what sports means around that time?
So a bit of both. Even though the Olympic Games isn't happening in London, we want to still create that sort of energy. There are, a lot of young talent that are hoping to go to the games as well, whether you're competing or also, if you're fortunate enough to get tickets. So I was super fortunate enough to get tickets, so I will be going to the games as a spectator. And it's just always nice to have that connection to that event that happened so many years ago in London. So I'll be going to the London Diamond League, which is also known as the Anniversary Games. And that was always special. Whenever I go into the stadium, it's always super special because once you have those sort of memories, it never leaves. It feels as fresh as it was like yesterday. And going to Paris, I want to just, home in on and see what we can actually do in order to get the next generation going. So I'm not saying that every single young athlete will make it, but what are the other avenues that you can go down to, get the same sense of achievement or fulfillment as a professional athlete would? So just like myself, I feel like I've hit the jackpot. I'm not a professional athlete, but I'm almost living that professional lifestyle, I guess. Not the glitz and the glamour, but the impact I'm able to leave on other people and the people I'm allowed to meet along the way. And I feel like going to the games will definitely give me more insights to what I need to do as an individual within my communities that I work in.
From that incredible story in 2012, that who else can sort of share that story with us? Like, what were the kind of next steps as as you started to really embody this sort of sense of kind of impact and sort of service to the community?
So at the time, I think it didn't really click to me at the time. Yes, it was great. I met a huge athlete on the platform and it gave me motivation to try and pursue to become a professional athlete. I didn't necessarily know what it meant to the position I'm in now. Fast forward, you have, 2012, 2014 when I got injured and when I met Random Crew. But I would say it's from 2015 to 2018-ish where I really started putting in the groundwork. Besides working with Random Crew, Track Mafia took me under their wing. And, what Charlie and Corey taught me and exposed me to as well was just unreal. I didn't think you could create a running community outside of an athletics track. Didn't see it possible. And I didn't understand that people are meeting up to have conversations and to run. I was like, there's no end goal. There's no medals to be won. There's no prize money. It was just mind-blowing to me at the time. But it wasn't until... So I'm quite an introvert. And I read body language really well. And I listen a lot. And listening to Charlie speak and listening to Corey speak and how they worked within their communities, I was just like, I was so inspired. And I didn't think I would be that person in the forefront to start my own community, but I wanted to do more. So I volunteered with any events and any run clubs, events that were going on with Random Crew and Track Mafia. And they really allowed me to flourish through that. So whether that was, keeping it simple, like leading warm-ups, leading cool-downs, being involved with any events that they may have done. And with that, it gave me a lot of confidence. And 2018, I remember having a conversation with, two separate conversations actually with Charlie and Corey. And they were like, Andre, you travel quite a lot to come to run clubs. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I'm used to traveling. I don't like running where I live because it's dangerous, etc. And they were like, no, I think you need to start your own running club. And I was just like, at first I was a little bit confused because does this mean you're kicking me out of your establishment? And I took it quite to heart, and it took me a while. And I was like, no, I think they just want me to now start something for myself. I think they see potential in me to start something. And while I wasn't confident and I wasn't very good at public speaking or being out there and open, I tried, and I gave it a crack, and I was like, do you know what? I'm going to start my own group, but also pay homage to the run clubs that have got me to the position I'm in now. So hence the name Mafia Moves. Um, yeah, based out of North London.
That's quite a journey you've been on, from putting in that hard work in 2015 and taking it forward. Like, what have been some of the best achievements for you on this journey?
So running wise, I've got loads. Working with some of the biggest brands in the world, to meeting so many amazing people, to meeting absolute strangers and taking them on the journey with me. As a community leader, you kind of forget the impact you're leaving on some people's lives. And it was literally looking at my phone yesterday, being Global Running Day, and just seeing some of the messages people sent me of, Andre, do you remember the first conversation we had when I first started? And funny enough, I do. One thing about building communities is that you actually remember pretty much 99% of the conversation I have with every single runner that I encounter with that comes in. And it's nice to see that journey. I'd say they're probably the biggest achievements. Yes, working with brands are absolutely amazing, and I have so many amazing stories, but it's the people you meet and the lives you change, because on face value, you don't necessarily know what someone's going through until you have that conversation and you build trust over a period of time. Because yes, we are here to run and to work out, but there's so much that can be said and done within that short space of time that you get to learn about these people, and you have a newfound respect for them beyond what you already had before.
The feeling of helping others is the best feeling.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
If I could do that all the time, if you spend a day doing things for other people, you've had a good day. Just going back to your point on a community leader, 2 questions on that. How would you define a community leader? What is it, and what role does it fill within a community or a space?
So a community leader, I think, is someone that just shows up regardless when no one's watching. You are the backbone of everything happening and this goes beyond movement, if I'm honest. Checking in on people. We've been hit with a pandemic, making sure that people within your camp are okay. And it's not the sense of, oh, you're right, how you doing? It's like, are you generally okay? How is your family? What are your worries? And don't get me wrong, it is very, very consuming, and you do take a lot of people's worries and struggles on to your own lives, but it's part and parcel of the job. And, with that being said, you're almost like a parent, a brother, a cousin, a dad. There's so many different hats you have to wear as a community leader as well, that is kind of unclassified sometimes. Depending on how much you put in is what you're going to get out, and it's forever changing. I love it. And I think with my background of being a teacher, is definitely second nature to me now, of being that person that's able to help nurture you along your way.
Did this stuff come naturally to you? Or was it stuff you've had to learn?
Bit of both.
Yeah.
A lot of people have said to me, I've got a natural gift of, working with young children or young adults, and people in general. But also I've had to learn how to have conversations, how to not take on too much. So a bit of both, and I've always loved working with people from all ages, from kids from really, really young to, OAPs, is such a rewarding job. And yeah, it just makes my life so much more interesting, and it gives me a sense of purpose.
Yeah. I mean, that really comes across, actually.
Yeah.
That sense of purpose. So yeah, thank you.
It's huge, man. Come on, let's talk about Mafia Moves then. Tell us everything.
Right, where do I start? Mafia Moves. So I've kind of missed a few gaps with the journey of Mafia Moves. When I used to run and train, yes, I was a track athlete, but I was a distance runner. And growing up in North London, distance didn't really exist. If you're a distance runner, you run a mile. Run a mile on the track, that's your warm-up. You don't really go outside for 5K, 10K runs. That was something really unheard of. But when it actually got introduced to me by my coach, I found it extremely difficult to train because of the area I lived in. So grew up in a place called Edmonton, played football in Tottenham and Enfield, and I went to school in Enfield. And at the time, 2011-ish, was where there was a lot of turf war or gang violence, whatever you want to call it. So me traveling from place to place to place actually wasn't safe. And I used to train in Enfield. And what would tend to happen was that you could only get one bus to training. And there was a lot of violence on this bus route, to the point where I would actually choose to run to training because it would be down a motorway and there wouldn't be that many people, as opposed to getting that bus route to the track. And that was my sense of safety. But then fast forwarding, years down the line, I said, we can't live like this. Yes, the roads are dangerous, but you know what they say, strength in numbers. And this is what was at the back of my mind when, starting Mafia Moves. I wanted to create a group or a platform for people to feel safe in the environment that they grow up in. I didn't necessarily like running in parks and green spaces. That was something that wasn't really given to me, because the only green spaces we had were football pitches and not so much, picturesque running spaces. So I was always used to running on the concrete, which was fine, and that's what I knew. So I'd say, okay, when I'm starting my running club, we're not going to be in the parks. We're going to be on the streets where we're visible. And we need to show people that there is positive movements happening in these sort of environments. And one way I like to describe Mafia Moves is we like to create controlled chaos. And that is literally what we do. We have music, we run down busy high roads, we run in the road sometimes, and we like to be seen. And that is what we did to start off with back in 2019 when we started. And here we are, 2024, still going super strong. And we've evolved. We're no longer just the running community that creates controlled chaos. We're now a collective of people that help encourage and empower each other and give experiences and opportunities to all walks of life. So we've now started our youth program, where we're trying to get kids to run in their environment. And, as you can imagine, as teenagers, it can be really dangerous traveling from A to B to C. But at the same time, when people see you doing positive things, they don't trouble you majority of the time. And that is how I got through life, pretty much. I was playing football, I was a dedicated athlete, and even though I was in these sort of spaces and I knew people making the wrong choices, I was always pretty safe because I had that focus. And that's what I want to implement in many people, especially in environments like the ones we operate in today. So not just in North London, I want that to be in West London, South London, East London, and all over the UK and the world, really.
Yeah, incredible story. You started to talk about careers within movement and kind of positively sort of encouraging that as well. Like Mafia Moves is 5 years in, but keeping with lots of ambition and growing. So what the careers in movement look like?
We want to be in it for the long run, and with that, we need to focus on the younger generations. And with my background of being a classroom teacher and also a PE teacher, I have an understanding of what it takes to get kids involved. And it isn't through traditional sports of, football, rugby, all the team sports. It's all about giving that child accountability. They need to be accountable for their own actions. So whether that is, being able to identify that, okay, you need to look after your well-being, whether that is physical and mental, and how are you going to do that? And how does that translate to life? So what I like to do with, all my runners is tie it back to life. Okay, you've had a bad race or you've picked up an injury. Are you going to just quit and mope around and say, I've got the injury, I don't want to train anymore? Or are you going to find ways in which you can navigate your way back to that platform of you running again? And it's just like life. You apply for a job, you don't get the job. You're going to mope around and just sit at home on a couch and just be like, that job was meant to be mine? Or do you actively get up, get your CVs printed? I know that's quite old school, but actively start applying for jobs again, And that's what I tried to implement to the kids at school. And they understood it. I'm not forcing you to do sport. I would like you to do sport because I understand the benefits that it can give you, not just physically, but, mentally, and it allows you to translate that into life. And it definitely started to click with the kids. And that's what I want to try and do with Mafia Moves is use that as a platform to mentor and nurture these kids, especially and give them opportunities. There's a lot of kids in the environment we work in that may not have opportunities. Simple things like running trainers. That's one of the biggest resources that we take for granted, especially in the running space. People say, oh, running's free. All you need is a pair of running shoes and you're all good to go. But running shoes can be pretty expensive. So what I did with my youth program is I said, I didn't want you guys to show me that you're dedicated. That's all I said. So they showed me week in, week out. They'd turn up, rain, wind, sunshine, they were there. So what company I worked with at the time, we all sorted them out some kit. And from then, it just clicked for them. They were like, okay, I've worked hard and I've been rewarded. But it doesn't mean it stops there. We keep working hard. And they really appreciate it. I feel like a lot of people in general now think that things are a given as well and that you don't have to work hard for things. So what I want to really implement in my community is that you work hard and you reap the rewards, but then you have to keep going. And yeah, that's what it is all about in that environment. It's just you lean on each other, you gain experience from each other, and you succeed together, really.
So many amazing examples there of like the real power of sport and movement, right? It's not just like those times or those sporting achievements. It's everything is teaching you.
Yeah.
I love what you said about accountability there as well. As a dad myself, my son who just loves movement and swimming and running and everything. But you obviously learn a lot from team sports. But to your point that you were talking about, like those traditional team sports, not maybe giving you that accountability that you would get in something like in running.
100%. But then I guess even though they say running is an individual sport, it can still be a team sport, but in a different way. You want to create an environment where you want everyone to succeed, whether that is, whether you're all going for the same goal, there's still enough room and enough space for people to all succeed together. And something I should have touched on was showing up, being present. There's a lot of people with a lot of gaps, especially coming out of the pandemic. There's a lot of gaps that need filling. Like for myself, I can openly speak about it. My dad wasn't very present in my life. So I always said when I started a crew or if I ever had a relationship with a young person, that I would be that person stuck in their life, and I'd show up. So whether they had games, I'd try my best to be there and just give them that support. So when I had Mafia Moves, I said, you know what? I'm going to be there every single Saturday, whether I have one person or I have 50 people. I feel like showing up is so important and being that consistent figurehead in the community, if you want to call it, is super important.
It's completely life transformingly important. And this, like you'll get certain bits of feedback and people telling you this and you'll see the impact, but there's tons of impact that you're having that no one sort of shared with you. So hats off to you. Like the presence there as a relationship that people sort of look up to and need. It's gigantic, mate. That's amazing.
100%, and I guess that's where I kind of fell out of love with teaching a little bit, because there's only so much you can do, as opposed to like a community leader, youth worker sort of thing. Because, I've been out of teaching 3 years now, but I still speak and I still see some of my students that I used to teach because of that relationship that we built and the accountability that I gave them. It's really nice to, get little messages from them and say, sir, I'm running 10K now, all those running sessions. I didn't see at the time, were setting us up for the point to where we are now. And even simple things like behavior, making sure that they're keeping themselves accountable and working on their own dreams. It's quite funny. I had a student message me and say, sir, I'm really proud of you. And I was just like, it blew my mind. But I remember having a conversation with the child and he was just like, sir, I know that you're a great teacher, but I can see that your passion is somewhere else. And, when I left to, pursue my dreams in running and stuff like that, they were just like, we're upset to see you go, but it's really cool that you're going to do your thing. And I think it inspired a lot of kids to just be like, right, if I want to go and do something, I'm going to figure out a way to go and do it. And yeah, it's really cool to hear that.
It's normally the other way, right? You would be proud of your students.
100%.
It must have caught you off guard.
Oh yeah.
What a wonderful thing to hear.
Yeah.
So what things has being an athlete or running specifically taught you?
A lot of things. Mainly patience, and everything happens for a reason. When I was sort of transitioning out of being a competitive athlete to sort of going into the teacher mode, I was struggling a lot to find my purpose. I didn't know at the time what I needed to do because I'd been so ingrained in trying to push to become that athlete that I didn't really know anything else. And I remember having a conversation with my mum, and she just said, "You know what, Andre, just be patient, just wait, and don't neglect the signs along the way." And at the time, I was just like, "What does that mean?" Until you start seeing little signs. So like simple things. I was studying at university to become a teacher, and someone said, "Oh, Andre, you're really good with kids." And I was like, "Okay, cool, that's good, that's all right." But then I followed that sign. I said, "Okay, let me start volunteering and seeing how I got on." So I became a TA, and I was working with the kids. And then when I was still good working in the running space, and people listened to me, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I've still got this sort of connection to running. Let's see if I can get back into running while working with the kids in the school." And yeah, I feel like it all happened in due time, but with patience. Um, and I would say that's really the biggest word I would say linked back to my sort of athlete career to where I am now.
Your mum's got some serious wisdom, right? But it's so funny because it's like something you wouldn't necessarily know how to put into words or how to explain until it's told to you. But like, you are right. Like, being freelance or running a company or something, you have these months of like, they're really busy or something can be really quiet. And you just need to have that patience because like something's happening and it's coming and there are signs for it. But like, unless you're tuned into it and just relax and like, just, be present, be aware of the signs, it will be all right. What is coming will come.
Exactly. I guess it's easier said than done, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially when at those moments where you need to be patient, you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so anxious. I don't know what's to come."
If you're aware that they're there, there's always signs, and sometimes you're just not present enough or aware enough that they're there, and like, the signs will keep repeating, and all of a sudden it will twig. But like the signs have been there, but you just haven't really been
100%.
dialed in. And I think for me personally, like, the more you can kind of stay in those like positive spaces and be very calm and be of service and helping a lot of people, like the more you sort of stay in that kind of vibration and do that, then the more tuned in and aware of those opportunities that are always there, but you're just not vibing in the right way to see them or for them to kind of have their power.
That's the space I'm in now. I feel like a lot of things are happening and coming my way that I'm like, am I living the real life? Because I'm so used to being so anxious of, was this really meant to happen, or when's it going to go wrong? To the point where I'm like, wow, the position I'm in now, it's the dream, but I've always got that little doubt in my head that something's going to go wrong or it's all going to come crumbling down. But on the flip side, I'm like, no, Andre, you've put in, a good 6 years of graft, and obviously you don't see it at the time. You just do what you love to do, and to get where I am now, it's nice. It's really, really nice.
Habits. I think that's a big thing in like long-term success. Can you talk to some of the good habits you have in your life and how they work for you?
I guess as an athlete, there's so many habits you have ingrained into you because you've got to train, and everything is very strategic and regimented. So I'm pretty punctual. That's just something I've always had in my system.
Being on time is such an important thing because you're respecting your own time, but also respecting other people's. It's a really, really good quality.
And it also shows people that you're serious. If you have an opportunity and you're rocking up, 2 minutes late or just on time, it's like, okay, that's not too bad. Like, I'm not knocking people that are on time, but if you're serious about the opportunity you're about to take on, you need to be early. Just in case anything goes wrong or whatever, I'd rather be early than late. And we'll just work hard. Work hard. You may not necessarily see the goal, but just keep working hard. Like, I almost say, like, work as if it's your last.
On that, with the goal, right? So you've been building this for what was it, 6 years?
What's that, Mafia Moves?
Yeah, give or take 6 years.
Coming up 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
And it seems like you've been very dedicated to that goal, that end vision. Has that needed to chop and change? Have you had to adjust the goalposts? Like, what's the journey been like in that?
It has been tough. It has been really, really tough. And I'd say like even trying to function during the pandemic was ridiculous. And while we're not a huge running club in terms of numbers, so we're not like the 100+ number, which is fine. I really like that because I get to know every single runner personally. It does get difficult, but you know, things are on the up and we always find a solution, you know, and I'm not the eyes and ears of Mafia Moves solely. Yes, I'm the founder, but I have amazing people within the community that help me. So yeah, we always have, like, we still have problems now, and they're good problems because, you know, in order to grow, you need to have problems. So yeah, I'm embracing them, and it's allowed me to learn because yes, I had Charlie and Corey to teach me the way of how we set up a running community, but there isn't blueprints for everything. You know, you have to go through these sort of motions in order to learn and grow with wisdom and better yourself. So I'm embracing it.
Yeah,
Very good.
and you're creating the blueprint for others.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I'm always available for any up and coming crew leaders or even pre-existing crew leaders. You know, there's enough room at the table. You know, I'm not gonna run my community in one way and just have that and be like, right, you're setting up a crew, you can't know what's going on over here. It's got to be a collaborative way because at the end of the day, we're trying to work on a bigger picture here, you know, of movement. We want the whole world to move and the younger generations and even the older generations to move. And I just can't do that with Mafia Moves alone. We're going to contribute to it, but there's so many different leaders in the running spaces and communities in the running spaces that can come together in order for this big change to happen.
You can't discount the power the individual has to affect change. For someone keen to follow in your career footsteps, like what bits of advice would you give to them when they're starting out, and also things to avoid?
I would say definitely get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You know, someone like myself, again, who's an introvert and not so much in the public eye, or who wasn't in the public eye.
I think people would be surprised to know you're an introvert.
Yeah.
Like, because there's so much positivity, and like your personality comes out so much in like all of your content that you put out. I think it is surprising.
Yeah, see, I've had to learn that though. So again, being in the classroom and being a primary school teacher, I was a year 2 teacher, sorry to go off in the tangent, but my mentor told me I had to almost put on a mask and act.
As a performance.
Yeah, because the kids aren't going to know any different, but they're going to know if you put on a rubbish performance because they're not going to be interested. So you have to perform, and whether that is coming out of your shell for that hour or whatever it is, you learn so much about yourself because you realize people don't actually realize that you're introverted or shy or, you know, and that's something I've definitely learned to just be comfortable with being uncomfortable, you know, ask loads of questions and put in the groundwork. You know, money isn't going to be the be all and end all. Yes, it helps in a lot of instances, but volunteer, you know, ask to help out, ask to shadow, just be in those sort of spaces and places that will allow you to gain a better understanding. It allows you to create your own blueprints.
I mean, on that, it's like the money shouldn't be the end goal, I believe. Like, it's the figure out the greater why, and that's something we've been doing a lot of. And when you're doing something for a purpose, and that purpose is a clear end goal, the money will come. Like, whatever it is it's a byproduct of what you are trying to achieve. And it will probably be like 10, 100 times more than you were imagining in the first place. But yeah, just
that shouldn't be the main focus. Well, yeah, personally, you know, I always think about, it's quite morbid. I think about this almost every day. It's like, okay, if I go tomorrow, how would people remember me? Or what would I like to be remembered by? And I wouldn't want it to be, you know, the rich so-and-so who's capitalized off a lot of things that has happened. I want to be remembered by the things that I've actually done and the impact I've made over the years.
That's something I'm going to reflect on and write down a bit. I think the quality of your life is almost like the quality of the questions you constantly ask yourself, and that's an absolute game changer that I'm going to take from this conversation. Thank you. I think if everyone kind of reflected on that every day, we'd be in a good place.
Yeah, it's important, you know. It's really, really important to just reflect, to think about the people around you who have contributed to your life, and just be like, right, well, what would my mum say about me, or what would my friends say about me if I wasn't here? So yeah, that's something that's always in my mind.
You have a very clear vision and from where you want to take things now. So 5 years time, everything sort of, aligned with that vision, what are we looking at? Where have you taken things to?
In terms of where I want to be and where I see myself being is within an environment that allows all my walks of life to come into one center, if that makes sense. I'm going to leave that there. So just think center, all walks of life, under one roof. There we go.
Cryptic.
What question, like, if any, like, does no one ask you that you wish they would ask you?
How do I word this?
That's a super left field question. I love it.
How would 15-year-old Andre be if he saw the position you're in now? Or even 8-year-old Andre? Because these are like big milestones for me where quite big things have happened in my life. So for example, 16-year-old Andre, as sad as this sounds, I thought I wouldn't be on this earth anymore. The same as 18, 21, and then got to 25, and that's where life started changing quite a bit. So it's almost like, reflecting and checking in at these different milestones. And I think that's why I can relate so much to the young adults growing up now, because I see a lot and I still understand it like it was almost yesterday. So those are the sort of questions that I like to ask my students as well that I work with. So I'm like, okay, you're 12 or 13. Where do you see yourself when you're 15? Where do you see yourself when you're 18? And some of the answers that will come out is quite shocking, because a lot of people don't necessarily see that far down the line. So even when you ask me, where do I see myself in 5 years? I'm still in that kind of mindset sometimes that I'm like, wow, 5 years is quite a long way. Anything can happen before then. And I know it's not that positive to think that way, but it's always been ingrained in me for the last, 15 years that because tomorrow is not promised, don't think so far ahead. But it's at the same time, it is quite nice to have those goals in mind. So almost like penciled in and not permanent marked in.
Could be quite morbid, but I do love the concept of just giving everything to today, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. I personally don't think there's a morbid thought at all. I think that can be taken in the right way. It's an incredibly empowering thought, because it's almost like you go to bed at night and you've left everything.
Very good. Andre, you've been so generous with your time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here and talking with us. Before we go, if people are interested in learning more or, working with you, how can people connect with you?
So the easiest way is Instagram. So super easy, Andre Coggins. And anything sort of running related, Mafia Moves related, Mafia Moves _ on Instagram, or our website, mafiamoves.co.uk.
Thank you, Andre. Great to chat.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, Andre, thank you so much. That was incredible. Really, really, we really appreciate you opening up, and